Man, like when you out here getting in people's business, man, leave it alone.
If Doug
we're gonna get fired because the show's asking one day. Leave Doug P alone. He's doing what Doug Peterson does. I'm not getting into what he's doing in Boca Raton. I don't even know what's going on here. Why are you doing this?
That's a great call on Uncle
Why are
June.
you doing this? Oreo Cookie, Oakland. Get us back on track here. One word to describe the Warriors' regular season. Jeez Louise.
Hey, man, my one word is blunder. The reason why I use that because it goes with Steve Kerr, his job this year. I don't get how you guys were praising him about an hour back, giving him credit for these moves where all these moves were done just out of necessity. It took, that one guy, but it took him to complain to the media to get some playing time. The rookie that came in, man, he took an injury and Draymond Green to get out of the lineup for him to start. Please, I don't want to see that Pods dude come in no more. Let him come off the bench. Give those minutes to CP3, and let's go, baby.
All right. So Steve Kerr. All right, then we take it to Steve Kerr. One word to describe his job this year. Since a lot of people are indifferent on Steve Kerr, I see a lot of so during the game, Shasky, and it's been therapeutic for me. I don't tweet a lot. I don't look at Twitter a lot during a basketball game anymore. Just kind of watching the game and write my notes down and write my stats down and everything. Yeah. But I did go on Twitter Saturday morning, and the algorithms were so jacked up where it has the for you or following or whatnot. For some reason, it's always for you. And it's just nonstop slander.
Yeah.
I don't know why slander's for me. I'm not a negative guy. I like to think positive. But people were hammering Steve Kerr. Hammering him. I mean, not to mention Jim Park. It is insanity. I mean, it was just...
For those that, like, who is Jim Park?
He's some dude who tweets nonsense about Steve Kerr.
Okay.
I mean, just like vitriol. I didn't realize how many people felt about Steve Kerr. Look, he admitted, should have paid TJD a little bit more. But it's also, I understand, like, his job is so difficult because you have so many players that are not consistent. How do you figure out a solid rotation here where you're like, I could bank on this guy game in and game out. I could bank on this guy game in and game out. The inconsistencies of the players have led to inconsistent rotations.
Well, and also their status or hierarchy within the organization is a big part of things. So, like, to think that they're just going to not play GP2 for weeks on end, like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Steph and Dre and those guys, like, they like GP2. So there's going to be a role for them. You know, demoting Kevon Looney the way they did, that took a long time. And you owe a little something to Kevon Looney to allow him to see if he can play himself back into favor, to tinker with Klay Thompson and his minutes. Like, so the word that I would use to describe, Steve Kerr's season is actually underrated. Yeah. I think he had an underrated year.
I agree.
I think he had a lot of, role parts that he had to use as starring players on this team. And I think given everything that happened this year with availability and, the tinkering of the starting lineups and everything, I thought he squeezed the lemon pretty well.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, we could argue about a couple of situational games here and there, but...
He played the young guys. Listen, what was the talk last year? We wanted him to play the young guys. Wanted to play the young guys. Well, this year he played the young guys. Pods played a lot of minutes.
Fifth most on the team.
Fifth most. TJD started 11, 12 straight games.
Yes.
He started to see minutes. Kuminga started 29 straight games. So, he played the young guys. It's just when you have inconsistencies and guys are in and out of the lineup, think about how much we bragged about that Milwaukee game. Wow, it's the first time they've been healthy since November 28th. They've not been wholesome all season long.
Let's remove Steve Kerr. Whoever you think in your mind is the greatest head coach of all time, and you can insert whoever you want or just make it Coach X, greatest coach of all time. What do they get? 49 wins out of this team? Maybe 50? 51? This isn't like we act like this is a 60-win roster and, Steve Kerr's sitting here with 46, 47 wins. I'm asking you, Bonte.
Again, well, I don't know how many because the lineups were not consistent. You have 27 different starting lineups. Why? Because guys are in that. When Draymond Green misses over 25 games, you get Andrew Wiggins. It consistently gets hurt, and misses a few games. Steph actually played the most regular season games he's played since he was 28 years old. Klay Thompson played 77. But there's a lot of, and then you got youngsters who they're learning how to play the NBA. There's going to be growing pains. So at some point, you got to pull the plug on them. at some point you're like, can I really close with this guy? He's been consistent, but how can I not go to Wiggins? It's just so many baked in, so many things that had happened, so many variables and moving parts that to win 46 games with this roster, I'm not mad at Steve Kerr. I think the extension is deserved. I think for what he's had to deal with, and we talk about this all the time with the finishing lineup. We know Steph and Dre are going to finish. That's baked in. That's sold. But what about the other three spots?
It's all over the place. Based on form, availability, matchup. Like, there's like 50 different, ways that I could break that down.
Exactly.
I just don't see this. And again, someone could disagree with me, but I do not see this Warrior team as a 55-win team. Now, can we argue about the 3-game difference between the 6 seed and the 10 seed? Absolutely. But I would put as much on the actual players as I would on the head coach.
Yeah.
Because I thought the players let the coach down at times, whether it was poor execution or availability or whatever you want to pick.
So 510, Xfinity Mobile text line. Bonte, you're wrong. Inconsistent players are due to inconsistent rotations. I don't know about that. There may be something. I think a lot of people agree with the 510, that the inconsistencies are due to the rotations and not knowing what the rotation is going to be like. I don't know. Let's go to Al in San Pablo. Al, what's happening? You're on the roast.
Hey, good to talk to you guys. I would describe the Warriors season as mediocre, and I do agree with both of you about Steve Kerr. I would describe his situation, his quality of adaptability. I think he was perhaps the most adaptable coach that we could have had. In fact, without his adaptability, the Warriors may not even be the 10th seed. They could be out of the play-in. But I did want to ask you a question about tomorrow's game and just a general, Bonte, because I know being with those NBA players on your show, when it comes to turnovers, I know the Warriors have a lot of turnovers, but there is a plus and minus because the other team have turnovers too. So when it comes to shot attempts, what is more important, the number of turnover differential or the number of shot attempt differential?
That's a great
question. And how will that
question.
affect tomorrow's game, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is a great question. And I've learned about shot attempts from just Mully. I hadn't really paid attention to it as much as I have the last 4 years working with Mully and Fezzi and Darrell, right? Shot attempts are huge. Huge. You look at the shot attempts they had against Portland, right? Which is why the Portland win was not a good win, as Steve Kerr talked about it. Portland had 20 more shot attempts, 97-77. You got Steph Curry, and you got Klay Thompson, you got Chris Paul, and you got Kuminga and Wig. You got all these guys. You want to get as many shots up as possible. So turnovers allows you, or the turnovers enables you to take a lot of shots. It takes away shots for you. That's less possessions for you when you do turn the ball over. But when these teams are getting 20 more shots up, you're asking to lose the game. You cannot win basketball games consistently by getting 20 fewer shot attempts than opponents. Now, some of that has to do with pace of play. Some teams play a little slower, and I get it. You don't want the Warriors running up and down. But when you turn the ball over, it does lead to less shot attempts. And that's a bad thing. That's a terrible thing. Even Friday night, you look at the Warriors and they're humming, and they had 16 turnovers, but they take 4 less shots to the Pelicans. Why? Because you turn the ball over too damn much. So it kind of goes hand in hand there. But shot attempts is a really intriguing stat that nobody talks about enough. When a team takes 10 or 15 more shots than you, that's a bad thing.
Well, and they're usually getting second chance points and second chance rebounds. But here's where I always fall down on these. What's it look like? How many times have you watched the Warriors in the last 3 or 4 years? Just the last 3 or 4. And you're like, oh, there's 40 seconds. And Fitz is like, you get a 2 for 1 here. You get a 2 for 1 here. And it's like, yeah, mathematically makes total sense. Yet the Warriors never execute the 2 for 1 properly because they take a poor shot on the front end and then give up a bucket on the other end and then don't get a good shot on the back end. So I'm glad you rushed, one of those possessions because you didn't get anything out of it. It's an empty calorie. And then it's a long rebound, and now we're going in the other direction for an easy bucket. So, I lose my mind on some of those 2 for 1 scenarios, every mathematical person's like 2 for 1, 2 for 1. And I'm like,
but it's all about getting a good shot. It's all about getting a better shot. Get the good shot. If the good shot is not available, don't take it. Don't force up a shot just to force up a shot.
But they do it. But they literally like. If I looked at their efficiency in the 2-for-1 situations,
I would love to. I would love to. Have
I bet it's not good.
I would love to have that breakdown. Let's go to